Hello. Something fascinating happened to me last night. I watched an old forest bushcraft video wherein he extolled upon the virtues of the Grohmann belt knife. And I had this bizarre experience, in a sense quite familiar, of, watching a video on KnifeTube and saying, oh, look at that. I want that. I want that experience. This guy, he's got this knife. He loves it. He's really excited about it. But I have the knife that he's using, pretty much. Actually, I would say it's a little different, come to think of it, because one of the things our fella Old Forest Bushcraft was so excited about was the width of the scales. And I did seem to think, my thought process was, yeah, well, I have one of these knives and I didn't like it. I've seen them around. I always thought I should try one, and then this came up in a local antique store as a part of a package deal. I actually got some other cool old knives with it as well, and so I snapped it up, got it really sharp, and tried it. And I'm like, I just don't like this. I don't like the way that the blade angles back. I don't like the way the handle is so thin up here. The handle is comfy, it's cool, but this rake on the blade. So I just grabbed this off the magnet there, and this is a knife that I made or modded. Let's say it was a cheese knife, and actually it was, the layout was like this. So originally the blade was this way around, and you had your spine, and then it had the little forky bit at the end, and then a serrated piece down there. And this is this nice old Echo chrome vanadium steel. It takes a wicked edge, and this has had a lot of sharpening since I made it. But what I wanted from this was an apple knife for paring apples, and this is a really good utility knife. Gets a lot of use by me, by my wife, So there you see, it's got this very positive, kind of like a seahorse whittler, and it's got this very positive kind of forward rake on the blade. I like that. That's why I did it. Yeah. This is like backwards. And referring once more to this Rolando Estocado video I saw about, self-defense with knives, he makes this point. If you have your wrist in its natural disposition, it's strong. Once you start bending your wrist in different ways, it loses a lot of strength. So it's like when you throw a punch, you want your wrist to be straight. Just roll up my sleeve here. Purpose of demonstration, you want your wrist nice and straight like that, right? So when you take a knife and you hold it in that grip, this one, for example, you would punch someone and you would not necessarily touch them with the blade because of the backwards rake on the blade. So if you wanted to then, get this into a stabby position, look at what you're doing with your wrist. So I'm not that interested in self-defense practically. Yeah? I don't go around fighting people with knives. But I'm interested in the hypothetics of it. Yeah? So what I just realized, for example, because now the Old Forest Bushcraft, he got me not just thinking, he got me wanting to like the knife. I want to love this knife now. And so just thinking about that, well, I'm like, okay, well, if you were in this proverbial self-defense situation where you had to get stabby, adopt the reverse grip. Yeah. And there you go. So it does work for that. And like what I'd figured about this knife is this is a one knife to do everything. But I have specialist knives, right? I have like an apple knife. I have a razor knife. Incidentally, this one, I cut grapefruit with it last night. And I didn't wash it. Zero oxidation. So there's a commenter in the video. Well, there are several familiar commenters on that video. Kukkeli Bushcraft was there. I think maybe we got to get him one of these knives so he can try it, because he said he's interested, but he'd want to test one out before buying one, Be interesting to have his view. And a fella with the handle Kannakarhu, I think, or Kannukarhu, like a Finnish sounding name, but he's in Canada, and he was saying how he's owned maybe a dozen of these or something over his life, and then in the end he got rid of most of them, and he's very disappointed because the company doesn't want to upgrade their knife in any way. They don't want to use a modern steel. They don't want to use modern handle materials. They're content to just keep selling the same old. And that is understandable. Because if you want to start using a whole new steel, a whole new handle material, maybe you have to retool. You know, if you want to make an actual bushcraft knife for the modern market, now you're going into a very competitive arena. And why? If you've already got a good thing going. However, also, why not? If you're the only company in Canada making knives, why don't you kick your ass into the 21st century and get some powder metallurgy, get some micarta, get some performance grinds. I don't know, whatever. Incidentally, also the Grohmann made a knife. They predate the Buck 112. They made a knife that is basically, when you see the Buck 112 with the drop point instead of the clip point, that's like a rip-off of the original Grohmann folding knife from what I've seen. So this company is fascinating, has history, but you got this guy who is an actual Canadian knife lover, and he's sad. He said he feels sad about it. And I'm like, well, okay, listen, bro, if you want a knife like this design, but with some Fabadocious steel and some micarta handles and so forth, there are any number of custom knife makers out there who would undertake that project, and some of them might even do it at a good price. You know, like me, I would love the project, and I'll make a couple. You know, I'll make one for me and one for you, and maybe one for someone else, and you know, it'd probably take me half a year, but eventually we'll have this knife, but to modern spec kind of thing. And why not? And also you could say, well, why don't you put this little contour on the scales, or, you know, change the rake on the blade, or anything's possible. But that isn't having the legacy company do what arguably they ought to do, which is, you know, stay alive, right? Stay not because also if you're just like, well, let me just ride on the coattails of my own prior success and just but isn't that like a kind of a senescence? Isn't that like a kind of a, well, eventually, you know, that we won't be able to compete with the modern market in any serious way, but hopefully people will still, you know, for the collectors and the retro and people who don't really know about knives, will just keep buying our knives and we'll be okay. No, maybe not. Maybe, you know, maybe 5,000 people from the knife community need to write a handwritten letter to Grohmann or an email or whatever and say, please, wake up. Make one of these in Magna Cut with G10 handles or whatever you want, right? And maybe they, you know, if they see that actually this is viable, they would go for it. And also I'm thinking, well, why not do a bit of all of that? And that's just, you know, maybe I having a bit of a funny morning and I'm ranting and what have you. But, well, here's the thing. I think we've got to try and cut some bacon. We're going to try and cut some bacon. I'll make another video. I'll make a little bacon cut video, because otherwise I have to flip the camera around. I need to clean the kitchen and all kinds of stuff. Thanks for watching. Catch me on my bacon cut video with this Grohmann knife. I'm going to try cutting bacon with this too.